Distinguished guests, esteemed partners, friends, and fellows, thank you so much for making the trip to join us today. We're so happy to have all of you. It's truly a pleasure to welcome you here tonight to celebrate our shared commitment to fostering entrepreneurship and innovation in Jordan. This evening is really special for us at the Atlantic Council, not only because it's an honor to be here in Amman, a city that embodies the resilience, creativity, and potential of this region, and not only because we have two incredible panels lined up for you tonight, but also because we're here to mark the official beginning of the inaugural Jordan cohort of the Women Innovators, or WIN, Fellowship. Some of our fellows are joining us online tonight, but many are here with us in person. This was an incredibly competitive class. We have run the WIN Fellowship in now a total of 4 countries over 3 years. This was one of the most competitive that we've seen. We received over 70 highly qualified applications, and we're so excited to welcome every single fellow to our WIN family. First and foremost, I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the U.S. Embassy in Amman. This is the first year for the WIN Fellowship in Jordan, and our expansion here is thanks to their sponsorship and their steadfast support. We also owe a deep thank you to Jordan Source and the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship for hosting us in this beautiful space. Your partnership has been instrumental in bringing us together tonight, and we look forward to continuing our work together. I'd like to express a special appreciation to a couple of very special guests that we have with us today, U.S. Ambassador Yael Lampert and Her Excellency Secretary General Samira El-Zobi of the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for being here. Both of you have demonstrated such leadership and support that we're so grateful for. Your vision for the future of Jordan's digital economy and your unwavering support for initiatives that elevate women's economic participation make tonight's launch all the more meaningful for us. The WIN Fellowship is a project of the Atlantic Council's Rafiq Hariri Center for the Middle East. At WIN, we believe that entrepreneurship is more than just about building profitable businesses. Entrepreneurs solve problems, create jobs, drive innovation. And when women are supported on their entrepreneurial journeys, they become engines, powerful engines of sustainable, equitable economic growth in ways that ripple far beyond the balance sheets. Jordan is a shining example of how innovation can thrive despite regional challenges. And the women entrepreneurs of this country are redefining boundaries and demonstrating extraordinary resilience, creativity, and ambition. The WIN Fellowship, as I said, now in its 3rd year, is a testament to those beliefs and to our shared vision of a future where women have equitable access to the tools, networks, opportunities, and resources that they need to succeed. This program is not just about investing in women. It's about recognizing and amplifying the immense value that they already bring to the table. To the fellows of the Jordan cohort, tonight marks the beginning of a journey that I hope will be as transformative for you personally as it is impactful for your businesses. You are joining a growing network of trailblazing women from across the region who are shaping industries, creating opportunities, and building a legacy of innovation. We are so excited to have you. Finally, I just want to reiterate my gratitude to everyone in this room, our partners, supporters, and champions for making tonight possible. I really look forward to walking hand in hand with you toward the many shining possibilities that lay ahead. Thank you. Now, it's my distinct honor to introduce Ambassador Yael Lampert, whose leadership and dedication have been instrumental in strengthening the enduring partnership between the United States and Jordan. Ambassador Lampert has had an exceptional career in diplomacy with decades of representing the United States and fostering positive collaboration in the Middle East. Her commitment to supporting initiatives that promote innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic growth is a true testament to her vision for a stronger and more inclusive future. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Lampert.
Thank you, Amelia, for that very kind introduction. And مساء الخير وأهلا وسهلا فيكم في هذا اليوم المميز. It is really exciting to stand before all of you today. Thank you for battling the traffic. Thank you for everything you did to reach this point so that we can be together in this amazing space. I've never been in this space before, and I have to say it makes me feel very entrepreneurial and innovative. It's really cool. And it's really exciting to be with you today as we launch the WIN Fellowship in Jordan. This exciting program represents a new collaboration between the American Embassy and the Empower Me initiative of the Atlantic Council's Rafiq Hariri Center for the Middle East. And it reflects our commitment to fostering empowerment, innovation, and opportunities for awesome Jordanian women. Thank you to everybody attending this evening, and a special welcome to Samira Mohammed Al-Za'bi, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship, and a real partner and advocate. Thank you for everything that you do. It's particularly meaningful for us at the American Embassy to launch this program as we celebrate 75 years of partnership and cooperation between the United States and Jordan. Our relationship with the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan is enduring, it is strong, and it reflects a shared interest in a more stable, peaceful, safe, and prosperous Middle East and world. We are so proud of our long-standing investments in Jordan's success, including in terms of economic development, with a special focus on creating opportunities for women. Investing in women is a strategic imperative. It's part of continuing to build a resilient economy that benefits all Jordanians. And our launch of the WIN Fellowship today, it really reaffirms this commitment. The WIN Fellowship, it's more than just a program, it is a transformative platform to nurture the talents of amazing women entrepreneurs here in Jordan. And through access to mentorship, skills, development, and an invaluable networking opportunities, this fellowship will help to lay the foundation for a more prosperous future, not only for you as individuals, but also for the communities that you serve. And so to the fellows who are here tonight, congratulations, Elf Mabruk. We're so excited to work with you. And I urge each and every one of you to seize this opportunity and to support one another as you embark on this journey. The connections that you forge with each other and the insights that you're going to gain through this fellowship and the experience will really be invaluable as you shape the future, not only the future of your companies, but truly the future of Jordan. And I really look forward to witnessing the accomplishments that will emerge from this group of trailblazing, strong women and the profound impact that you're going to have on your communities. Shukran jaziran, bitawfiq. And I wish you all the best. Elf Mabruk again, and shukran. Thank you so much for your participation in this.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. We're now going to show a brief video about Jordan Source and their mission and work. So please, up on the big screen.
Jordan's ICT sector proved to be exceptionally resilient. Jordan's quality talent delivers a well-educated, bilingual, tech-savvy, and price-competitive workforce. We are making long-term commitments to invest in this booming sector and to empower companies who engage Jordanian ITOs and BPOs. Join us as we take this leap into a bright, promising future.
Thank you so much. And I just want to reiterate, it's really exciting for us to have such innovative partners that are doing so much incredible work to invest in the future of Jordan's economy. So with that, we'll get kind of to the fun part of tonight, and we're going to introduce our first panel. So Noor, my colleague Noor Debussy will be serving as the moderator. You guys can come on up. The first panel is going to be kind of overall exploring the state of entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Jordan. So please.
لا يطلعوا الميكروفونات شغالين. Okay. Better watch out. Hello?
Hello.
Oh, I love this.
All right. Good evening, everyone here in Amman, and good morning to everyone who's watching us from Washington, D.C., where our Atlantic Council headquarters are located. My name is Noor Debussy. I am the Assistant Director of the WIN Fellowship at the Atlantic Council, and I am absolutely thrilled to be moderating our first panel for the evening. We will be looking at the state of entrepreneurship in Jordan. We will be exploring what it's like to start a business in Jordan, how the government is creating an environment that is more conducive for entrepreneurial success, and finally, how accelerators, incubators, and investor networks are developing. To do so, I am delighted to be joined by a distinguished group of panelists. We have with us Rama Kayali. Rama is a Jordanian entrepreneur who is the CEO and the co-founder of Little Thinking Minds, a digital platform with the goal of producing Arabic language education and early literacy audiovisual content. As a testament to its regional success, Little Thinking Minds has received several awards, including the MIT Solve, Schwab Foundation, Saudi E-Learning Center, and Queen Rania Award for Education Entrepreneurship. We also have with us Tamer Al-Salah, to the far left. Tamer is the Managing Director at Beyond Capital. He is an expert on entrepreneurship in Amman, having also previously worked at Endeavor and EBRD. And Beyond Capital was established by a seed grant from USAID and created through a joint partnership between Endeavor Jordan and Silicon Badia. It aims to build bridges between the entrepreneurial ecosystem and the investment community in Jordan. And lastly, we have Dana Darwish. Dana is the program management at Jordan Source, which was developed by the Jordanian Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship, which I will be referring to as MODI, under the patronage of His Royal Highness Crown Prince. Jordan Source seeks to connect businesses, investors, and entrepreneurs with the resources they need to grow. And without further ado, to kick off the discussion, I would like to actually start off with you, Rama. While Little Thinking Minds is an educational technology startup, your background is more in TV production. And I was very intrigued and pleasantly surprised, actually, when I learned the story of how Little Thinking Minds came to life. It did so after Rama and her business partner at the time decided to have an Arabic language children's film. We have, as Emilia said, so many entrepreneurs with us today, including some WIN Fellowship fellows from the Jordan cohorts. And I'm sure they will all benefit from hearing about your story. So if you can please start by telling us about the challenges you faced along your journey as an entrepreneur, but also if you can reflect a little bit on the opportunities that made Little Thinking Minds succeed and get to where it is today.
Thank you, Noor.
Nope.
Aish.
Uh-huh.
As Noor said, my background is in business, but I had a passion. We had a big pain. Our kids didn't have access to Arabic literacy programs. So we started out creating DVDs for kids. 15 years later, we now reach 500,000 students in the Middle East and the Arab world in 10 countries. So we pivoted from DVDs to digital programs. And if I want to start to talk about opportunities, before I talk about challenges, let's focus on the positive. One of the big advantages of being in Jordan is there's a lot of business enablers. We were one of the first cohorts to join Oasis 500. Oasis 500 started in 2011 and we got a lot of training on how to build business models, financial projections, how business operates, because really we had no background in creating a business. So then we joined Endeavor, we joined EO. So there's a lot of organizations that support business and businesses in Jordan that give you access to global mentors, to global companies, and there's lots of shared experience. Another advantage about being in Jordan is the fact that we're a small country, so it makes it easier to launch a business, to have a proof of concept, to test. It's a testing ground. And that's how, usually you test and see that it works, and then you go and scale. And another advantage of being here, of course, again, there's a strong social structure, so a lot of women who work here rely on the support of family to help when you have kids, and so it makes it just easier. If I want to talk about, let me just check, I didn't forget anything. Okay. If I want to talk about challenges, I would say one of the big challenges is access to finance. So when you want to grow a business, you need funding to grow your business. And there are not many VCs here. It's not easy to find money to grow your business. So for us, we had to look for investment from outside of Jordan. We had to fundraise from Saudi, from the Emirates, from the US. Of course, we did get funding from ISSF. We were one of their first investments, but it took time. I mean, it's not something easy. The other challenge is Jordan is a small market. So as much as it's an opportunity, it's also a challenge. So for us to be able to scale and grow and reach the students that we want to reach and reach those who are marginalized, reach public school students and private school students, we had to scale regionally. We are now in 10 countries, but that was a long journey. There were lots of ups and downs. Again, the journey is never linear. It's very bumpy, but thankfully this is where we are today.
Amazing. I'm glad you mentioned the access to finance part, because I believe, and we will transition to Dana shortly, but this is one of the biggest priorities of Modi. Dana, as I mentioned in my introduction, Jordan Source was created as part of the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. And the ministry's role has really evolved throughout the year to supporting the transformation towards a digital economy in Jordan. I believe you focused a lot on digital financing services, including digital entrepreneurship. And all of these efforts really aim to promote Jordan's startups, Jordan's businesses internationally. I was wondering if you could share a little bit based on your experience working with entrepreneurs here in Jordan, from what you hear about their challenges, but also based on what Rama just said about the challenges she faced. If you can tell us a little bit, what are the ministry's priorities when it comes to addressing these challenges?
I think that's brilliantly said. Thank you, Nuid, and thank you all for joining us tonight. So again, my name is Dana Derwish. I run a program called Jordan Source at the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship. If you look at the first row, you're going to see that at our ministry, we really believe in women leadership, and I really pride myself, and I feel like we're extraordinarily lucky to be able to work with such a phenomenal group of strong women, and I believe that that has changed a lot of the way of how we see female entrepreneurs over time. So when we're talking about Jordan internationally, we always like to say a country of firsts in the Middle East. A lot of technological stories have started from Jordan and have grown as you were talking. It is a small market. So much has started out of Jordan and grown to reach larger markets. But at the same time, we realize that there are a lot of moving pieces and that our role as a government is to really try to bridge the gap. And with that came the birth of a program called YTJ, so Youth Technology and Jobs, that Jordan Source is a part of. And I'd like to believe that the different parts of our program work like different pieces of a puzzle. And if you've spoken to me before, you've heard this analogy 20 times, so I apologize for that. But we have a really big focus on upskilling, and you can see really such a massive effort on bridging the skills gap between people that are graduating, whether that's men or women. but with a big focus in our upskilling programs on females in particular. Because you're going to notice, if you look at any Jordanian university, the number of women studying ICT-related topics is so high and they do so well. But why is it that when you look at the workplace, you realize that a lot of them kind of disappear? They're not disappearing into entrepreneurship, and that's one of the problems that we're trying to fix with this upskilling effort. And then we also have the other side of the program that works on the demand side. How can we bring more attention to the entrepreneurs? How can we show the world the effort that's being done by these entrepreneurs that have little resources but such high ambition that they are able to leave their mark on the world? So we work on the supply and on the demand side through our program, and I'm sure I will tell you more about that throughout the panel, but we also have so many fantastic grants and incentives towards entrepreneurs that I'm sure so many people in the room can benefit from. So we have salary subsidies because we know hiring the right talent is not easy. And I think that that's something that we really pride ourselves on as well, that all of our incentives, all of our grants were really designed in very close partnerships with entrepreneurs and the private sector to make sure that we are delivering what they actually need. And to be honest, it is such a unique experience to be able to see the impact of these grants on entrepreneurs. So of course, we will be circulating more information so that all of the WIN Fellowship participants can benefit from them, and we'd be more than happy to work closely on their applications to get these salary subsidies and market expansion grants and training grants and so much more.
Thank you so
Did I
much.
answer your question? I have no idea.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the different pieces of the puzzle within the ministry itself, because if we take a step back, it's actually different pieces of the puzzle within the business industry in Jordan as a whole on the micro level. We heard from the entrepreneurs, we heard from the government side, and now I'm going to turn it over to you, Tamir. So you can tell us a little bit more based on your experience working within the accelerator, incubator, investment network circle. If you could tell us more about Beyond Capital, specifically Beyond Capital's priorities. Beyond Capital has focused on strengthening the mechanisms that supports entrepreneurs in Jordan, but it has done so remarkably well by focusing on a prism of three different pillars. If you could share with our audience, please, today about your three different pillars. What are your priorities, and what have you accomplished so far with them?
Great. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad to see many familiar faces. I'm looking forward to meeting the rest of you. No, up again. As you mentioned, and maybe actually I would follow on what Rama had said in terms of the challenge of accessing finance, and this is the main issue that Beyond Capital wanted to fix when it was first created. So as Noor mentioned, I was part of Endeavor back in 2010, 2014, and this is when we really saw a huge challenge in the market whereby we're seeing entrepreneurs that are great, with great startup ideas, that either takes them so long to get to the stage where Endeavor could help, and similarly our other partners, which invests at Series A+, and or we've seen them fail for different reasons that could have been mitigated easily, right? And this is the first concept of Beyond Capital when it started to emerge. So at Endeavor supports high-impact entrepreneurs that are at a higher growth trajectory and at a certain level. And we wanted more of those to be there. So we wanted to create a mini kind of Endeavor-like program, which slowly grew. It took 3 years of design and talks with USAID to get to where the program is today. So when we first launched in 2017, we focused on two main things, and that's how the program grew, on increasing the pool of investable companies on one side and increase the pool of capital availability on the other side. And we do that through 3 different pillars: supporting entrepreneurs. One of them is supporting entrepreneurs, the other is supporting angel investors, and the third is supporting fund managers. And we do that through capacity building programs directed to all 3 stakeholders. So we train entrepreneurs, investment readiness programs, we participate with incubators, accelerators, and we have our own entrepreneurs that we support. but we also support angel investors. So we created an angel investor network, the only angel investor network in Jordan, unfortunately. And we have a direct investment program that co-invests with those angel investors, so to basically make them excited or more comfortable in investing into this asset class, which is very foreign to them. And the third part is empowering more funds to exist, venture capital funds that is, to exist in the market, to cover most of the early stages where the real need of capital is there, given that you are a local, hyper-local company at that stage and no one regionally or globally would know you exist. So we need to have a pool of capital to invest in those companies so that they will, once they reach certain levels, they would become regionally and globally relevant to attract more capital there. So we also have a capacity building program there called IFADA, which is a fellowship program that goes 6 months to train and support finance entrepreneurs or fund managers to create and conceptualize their funds. And we directly invest into those venture funds as an anchor LP, right? All of our investments are for profit, and we are a non-profit company. And so we have we do everything that we believe will impact the ecosystem positively. However, we do it while maintaining the commercial kind of aspect to investing. And that is for multiple reasons. The first and the most important is our own sustainability. We want to invest and recycle this capital and hopefully grow this capital to become bigger and bigger, and more capital would be provided to the market. But also not to just give the money out there for entrepreneurs to do whatever they want and then they leave, right? So we've seen a lot of grant programs. We also have a small grant facility, but it's very specific, right? So we thought the continuity of support would have to be a vested interest in the company. So today, when we invest in a company, we have vested interest to support this company for life. There is no expiry date until we exit that company, or the company fails or exits or whatever. Now, putting all of those pillars together, you'd see that it is an ecosystem within the wider ecosystem. So we have entrepreneurs, we have angel investors that would put in pre-seed kind of capital or seed capital. We have our own co-investment program, which is the Scout program, where we empower other individuals in the market to source, vet, and invest into companies. And then we have our funds that we've supported, and to date we've supported and invested in around 10 funds to date. We've invested directly in over 50 companies. Remove that from the camera. And we've supported from the support side of things over as well 50 companies, and today we currently have around 50. Everything is 50. That's an interesting. I hear myself say it. 50 angel investors within our network. Hopefully we'll continue doing this. We have many other programs that are related to those three main pillars: angel investors, entrepreneurs, and hopefully we would close those gaps and bridge that gap between the entrepreneurs and the finance capital, venture capital funds, by just understanding both sides and getting them closer together, getting those startups more ready to approach investors, and getting the investors to actually see those winners, hopefully.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you mentioned the goal of closing the gap between the entrepreneurs and the finance investment funds, because I want to go back to what you were telling us about the angel investment network. If you can share more later on about how that helps closing the gap, the gender gap in investment. But we'll return to that shortly. You mentioned attracting capital for companies that are ready to scale beyond Jordan and across the region. And scalability, of course, when we're discussing entrepreneurship, scalability is a very important aspect to look at. And I want to return to Rama while we're talking about scalability, because while Little Thinking Minds is actually headquartered in Jordan, it has offices in Egypt, in the UAE, and in Saudi Arabia. And as you mentioned earlier, it has served over 500,000 students across 10 Arab countries. So I think when it comes to scalability, you hit all the boxes. You've worked with both private and public schools, but you also have worked with refugee communities. So from your experience, I just would like to learn if you think Jordan's entrepreneurship system is well prepared for scaling startups across the MENA region. And what strategies have you specifically found to be the most helpful when you were scaling Little Thinking Minds regionally?
Hello, okay. One of the biggest advantages.
Tell me, I'll tell you.
Okay, that I forgot to mention, and that's.
Noor, أعطيها ميكروفون.
Okay, now it's working. Hello? Okay. One of the another advantage of Jordan that I forgot to mention, but it's related to your question, is we have a great pool of talent in Jordan. So we have there, when it comes to tech talent, there's a plethora of people who, are qualified, and the salary scale is reasonable compared to if we were to open offices in the Gulf, for example, where we're actually scaling. So the way we scaled was we had to, this is a challenge, of course, and raising funds from regional VCs, sometimes they ask you to open offices in their countries, which also is very frustrating and costly, but it does make scaling easier because sometimes the clients want to deal with a local company, they want us to have local bank accounts, there are many regulations, and so that's how we were able to scale in the region. Working with the public sector is challenging because it's a long sales cycle. So the way we have been scaling is we target private schools in the region. In the Gulf, they have the most number of private schools per capita. So we focus on private schools, but then we subsidize the public schools, in the region. So we work with the Ministry of Education in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Oman. We worked in Jordan, etc. So your question is Jordan equipped to scale? Yes, we have the talent, we have the people, we have the language. There's nothing that is missing for us to scale. What we need is visibility. Visibility is very important. We need support in PR. We need support, like Tamer said, put us out there, and you said, Noor, as well, put us out there, let them see us. And in terms of support, Modi was a big supporter of us. We were part of the Grow Joe program, which is recent. So a lot of our, recently hired tech people, actually, their salaries are subsidized by Modi. I know you focus on us, hiring women and people from governorates and not from Amman.
Rama did our whole sales pitch.
Yeah. But it really helped us the last 2 years because we wanted to hire top caliber people and we were struggling with cash flow. We were struggling with, is this the right time? We need to focus on profitability, and having that subsidy helped us. So I need to just summarize. Yes, of course we can do it. We just need a push.
Thank you for the mic. We'll be sharing it. And I forgot to mention in my introduction, but I'll make sure to leave some time towards the end of the discussion for any Q&As from the audience. So just wanted to put that up. Rama, I'll return to you after, Dana. I'll return to you after Rama's remarks. She was mentioning visibility. And you mentioned in your previous remarks your Young Technology and Jobs projects. Mm-hmm. The project specifically focuses on supporting Jordan's competitive advantages in the ICT sector. And I know that you do so by supporting the missions of the startup in particular and bringing them that visibility to the market, but also to the region. Can you tell me more about how the YTJ program is structured and how does it, through its pillars, support the entrepreneurs that are focused on the ICT sector?
Brilliant. So I'm going to say what Rama didn't say, but again, I love this tag team that we have going on. So actually, our YTJ director is in the front row, and we'll be both available after to go through any kinds of questions that you have. And if you are hearing about the grants, and it's the first time you hear about the grants, and you feel like this is something that you would like to learn more about, the website is grow.jo. I'd like to think that we did a good job with the URL. So again, it's grow.jo. There you can find out more. We have 3 kinds of grants up currently, excluding the upskilling. So again, we mentioned that we work on the supply and the demand side. So Jordan Source really focuses on the demand. That's why we do our roadshows. That's why we also believe a lot in partnerships like the ones that we have with the Atlantic Council and the US Embassy, because we do believe that Jordan is a fantastic gateway to the Middle East and that our entrepreneurs serving the Jordanian market in and of itself is not going to fulfill their ambitions, and it's not going to allow their companies to grow. So Jordan Source focuses on the demand side, and then the other pillars of the program focus on the supply side. So again, we have the upskilling component that focuses on bridging the gap between these fantastic ICT graduates and what it actually takes to be an awesome employee or an entrepreneur that can start their own business. Because let's face it, no matter how fast the educational system moves, it's never going to be exactly what the company needs in that time. There's also a lot of nuances that companies need, and we pride ourselves on having a very iterative approach when it comes to training, and we really go off of the company's needs. The other pillar is the incentives. So the first is market expansion. We do want our entrepreneurs to grow, whether that's locally, geographically, but also regionally. So even if a Jordanian startup has reached a point where they are capable of growing into a new geography, they can actually apply through the link, and it's a matching grant, which means that we will match their investment on their CapEx, not their OpEx, because we're covering a massive part of their OpEx through the talent incentive. So we know that when companies begin to hire this fantastic talent, it usually becomes their biggest cost. We also know that to get good people, to have the bandwidth to work in a startup environment and in a tech environment that's so fast-paced and very demanding, you need to keep them comfortable. So this starving artist / entrepreneur is not something really sustainable. So we cover 50% of salaries for 6 months for new hires. And then once you hire new people and we're incentivizing entrepreneurs to grow, we can give you that grant again if you've hired new people. So that's kind of how it's structured, but I'd like to believe that it's really built on a very strong partnership with the private sector. And from that, a lot of the concepts and the ideas and the grants and the structure of them has come to life, because we wanted it to be something that the entrepreneurs were really able to relate to, and we know that it will actually be beneficial for them. So again, the link is grow.jo. Feel free to ask us any questions afterwards. But on the demand side, what we are doing is we're promoting their stories internationally. So for example, last year we organized the first Arab country participation in South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. It was a fantastic experience getting to have all of our Jordanian companies to explore Austin, and then we went to San Francisco, and we ended up in our embassy in DC. So we had this full US roadshow talking about how we can build collaboration between the US ecosystem and the Jordanian ecosystem, and how we can also bring these fantastic stories to light, because it does take a collective effort to help the entrepreneurs reach their target audiences.
I'm so glad you mentioned all of the points you just did, because they create the perfect pivot to my next part of the discussion, which is focusing on the gender lens when it comes to investment and entrepreneurship. There's a lot of data and studies that have showed that when we support women-led startups, this automatically creates opportunity for increased talents, for training professionals, but also for attracting more investment, and it will all go back towards supporting the entrepreneurship ecosystem as a whole in the country, but also regionally. And I know, Tamer, you mentioned in your remarks earlier, Beyond Capital's Angel Investment Network. I was wondering if you can share a little bit more about the role, the critical role investment goals and investment network have on closing the gender gap and creating a more gender inclusive investment mechanism. One of the reasons why women-led startups are lagging, not only in Jordan and not only in the region, but globally, is because of a lack of funding and lack of investments that are directed to women-led startups. So if you can tell us a little bit more about this role, that would be great.
Certainly, and I love talking about our Angel Network, because this is something that I think is one of the most important pillars that we're working on, honestly, in Jordan. We have had multiple attempts to establishing Angel Networks in the past by other organizations, and unfortunately they all shut down after a year of operations, because it's a very difficult kind of operation to sustain when it's not tied to a bigger kind of organization to give it the time it needs to get to where it is. Given that angel investing generally, this asset class is a new asset class to many. And when you go to a traditional business person, they would not look at the valuations, at the ticket sizes, at the future potential, the way they look at their businesses. I've been building this business for 20 years and it's valued at 10 million. How are you, an idea stage company, worth 5 million, right? So those are very difficult kind of gaps that need continuous kind of training and knowledge sharing so that all of the ecosystem can actually comprehend what we're talking about when it comes to startups. We started our angel network in 2020 with 12 angel investors. And it was a struggle for us to find the right angel investors to be part of this network. And of course, and I think what you've alluded to, and I would love to give some stats, that they were all male angel investors. And then we tried to grow that network. Today we're at around 45, 50 members. We have 7 women in our angel network. 6 of them made an investment. 5 of them made more than 1 investment. And 4 of them made more than 2 investments. And the remaining 37 investors, only, I think, 9 of them invested, and less than 5 of them invested more than once. So when we look at the commitment and the action taken by women within our angel network is certainly higher. So we dug a little bit deeper into that, onto why we're not attracting women angel investors to join our network and how can we make that possible. And we had multiple reasons, and one actual fact. So I mentioned that one woman angel investor did not invest, and the reason she did not invest was, thank you. The reason they did not invest was that she actually never attended a meeting. She only paid us the fees, but never attended any meeting. And when we asked her why, she said, because I do not know. So that lack of knowledge in a certain industry or a certain sector would prevent a woman from participating, versus the 47 males that don't know anything about anything. They attend every single meeting and ask questions and say stuff. And so we saw that confidence levels. And we referred back to an Endeavor study that actually when Reem was there, she did, actually both of you did, on the women. Okay, I won't say much, but about the women participation. And we saw that confidence levels of knowledge is crucial for them to actually engage. And this is what we've done, and I can see a couple of women here within our new angel fund that we've done. So we partnered up with Amam Ventures and with GIZ to create a women angel club that takes those women through actually a full year of training, starting off with investing your capital, right? What do I do if I have additional capital on me? So we went through, the stock market, the traditional investment tools, the real estate, everything. And the last one was this asset class. So the venture asset class. And then we told those women, they were at around 70, and we told them, whoever is interested to learn more about this asset class, we will pool the money, create a fund, and together invest that fund into startups while training, kind of. So today we're at a stage where the startups pitched, and they've, chose a few companies that we're currently digging deeper into them. Yeah. We're hoping that those women would join the angel network. Actually, we have 2 women that actually want to join the angel network today, out of the 20-something women within that vehicle. Hopefully, we're going to do it more and more, and to see equal participation. And one last thing, it's funny when we talk about venture, and it's all about the power law and the 80-20 and all of those things. But what we don't realize, that if we exclude women, we're losing 50% of our pipeline, right? 50% of our chances, 50% of everything. So it just makes sense to include them and to involve them and to have them within the angel network, for them to invest in women founders. They would understand them more. They would really resonate more with a woman founder that would come in and be very conservative about her future. She's real, right? Versus others who just dream big.
And I absolutely agree. And studies have really shown how when you include more women in angel networks, as you've mentioned, you're increasing the share of women entrepreneurs in society. But then again, you're increasing the share of women employees. So it's a full cycle that really, as you said, boosts the economic, not only the economic participation of women, but the economic participation and economic development nationally overall. I don't want to talk a lot on investment because I know Reem is looking at me in the audience. This is her second panel's topic. We'll leave that to you. I will pivot to my last question and then we'll turn it over to you for a couple of questions. My last question is to you, Rama. I started with you, we're going to end with you. Little Thinking Minds has a social impact role, social development, social impact role. It is an impact-driven business, and that really focuses on inclusivity, gender equality, mindfulness, mental health, and it all does that by creating a positive role model. Could you please tell us why it is so important for startups to have social impact goals that are aligned with national economic plans?
Can I just comment on everything that has been said? So a lot of the WIN fellows are women, and one of the also beautiful things about the all of them, yes. One of the beautiful things actually about Jordan is we are a very close-knit society and we really empower each other and we help each other. And we learn more from each other than we do from anyone else. So again, I would like to extend mentorship, help, because we share similar journeys. And so I think we need to sit more together. We need to have these panels more often. Also, when it comes to access to finance, Tamer, I know when I was fundraising, one man asked me, am I going to have more kids? So it was very offensive. They would never ask a man this. So there needs to be also a lot of education, for, why it's important to invest in women. For us, we have, we're a team of 65. 65% of our team are women in a country that only has 17% women employability. So women hire women, women support women, women create ecosystems for women. So it's very important to invest in women. Going back to your question about why focus on SDGs, we live in a region that's very volatile. We have a lot of challenges, unemployability, lots of displacement, climate change. I mean, there's a lot happening in the region, and there's real problems we need to solve. And I think, as women also, we tend to we lean more towards solving these social problems. So I think it's important to focus on social impact because, we contribute in solving real pains and real Jordan or regional problems that exist.
Thank you. And we will definitely be in touch regarding mentorship, and we will definitely be having more of these sessions. At the heart of the Women Innovators Fellowship is really women supporting women. To your point, Tamer, about the confidence of women, I'm sure all of my ladies here, we agree that our friend, the imposter syndrome, we feel it more strongly, and this is what creates this hesitance compared to our peers. At this point, I want to turn it over to the audience for 2 questions. My colleague Emilia will be passing over the mic.
Easy questions, please.
Give them really hard ones. I'll try.
And please direct your question to the speaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. This is Noran Al-Garadli, CEO, co-founder for Arena Startup. Thank you all for all the great discussion we just had. So basically, my question, I'm sorry about that, but it's actually for the 3 of you. So basically, when it comes to startup in Jordan, and from my own personal experience, I can see that as much as great opportunities we have, but also at the same time, as much we lack the great opportunities that can actually reflect the growth and the sustainability of the startup in Jordan. What I mean by that is actually, let's be honest, that sustainability for any startup and the growth that happens for any startup, it's always when it comes to the financial part. So basically the know-how and the trainings and the incubation and accelerator programs is always great, but at the same time, we reach that point where we're too advanced for small grants, which is like from 5 to 10,000, and at the same time, you're even not even advanced enough to the grants that can actually make an effect on your startup, which is 20 plus grants. So basically my question to all of you, of course, as startup owners, I want to know more about what you did when you got stuck in that phase where you couldn't get any grants, and at the same time you couldn't get that VC investment or that like angel investor who gave you like 50+K to actually grow your startup and scale it. And at the same time, for other like opportunities that you're presenting from different organizations, like the criteria, does it actually understand the concept of startups now, or is it always the same? You have to have revenues and you have to have sales and customers to have it. Thank you all.
I'm going to decide Tamer needs to answer this.
I thought I would take the easier one. But yeah, well, I'm not sure what you're building, so I can't really answer and tell you you have to go there and you will get the money, or you know, there's no direct answer. But the thing is, venture capital funds, usually, actually, the venture capital industry did not start on funding early stage companies, right? They support early growth companies. And that is Series A plus. That is when you're generating $1 million, right, in revenues, at least. And only recently that venture industry started going down a bit, right, in the investment cycle. So because of the lack of enough companies and the higher competition on the VC side and the multiples that they could make more, they decided to go earlier. Now, we always had accelerators and venture funds, venture capital funds. And that in between the new early stage pre-funds are new. But you cannot expect any investor that doesn't know you to invest in you if they don't know you, basically. Because the investor conviction comes from trust, right? Trust that you are a good person and a person that I want to stick around for the next 10 years and deal with for the next 10 years. And the other one is the trust that you can execute. So when you don't have a product, when you don't have a market, when you don't have revenues, what am I investing into? There is someone with a great idea. And I bet you all of us here have great ideas. And so, but most of us would not know how to execute on that idea. Or if we do, we would not do it well. And this is why this sector is very, very risky. This is why most startups fail, right? It's not for everyone. And sometimes, even if it is for you, you might fail once and twice before you actually nail it. So traction is certainly something that other investors use. You can maybe reduce the weight on traction if you actually establish a relationship with that investor. Because traction comes in many different ways or forms. It doesn't need to be revenue. So if I know you and I know what your idea is, and then a few months later you come to me with a product or a prototype, and then with a testing group, and then I don't know what, then I would tick that box of trust that you can execute, because I've seen you executing and getting that feedback from the market and iterating and doing the right things. But if you just come to me, and even if you have revenues, I have $200,000 in revenues, well, that means nothing, because I don't know what happened yesterday. And this is why everyone always says, you know, you have to fundraise early on or establish the relationships early on so that those investors would feel that connection and would see that growth and would believe in you as a person. It's all about, it's a human game, right? It's humans to humans. What are we investing in? Especially at the early stages. So there is nothing, there is no company, there's nothing there. It's just one person or two people or a group of people that are working on something that is specific, and we have to believe that they can do that. I hope I answered.
Do we have one more, maybe? Yes.
Until you get the mic, it's always difficult for everyone in fundraising. So it's not only you, whoever asked the question.
I have actually a comment based on what you were saying about the Women Angel Investor Club. As being part of that, I would like to say something that women do have the courage more than men. However, they take their time to make their plan more logical. So this is why sometimes men, they just put the money there, they just go attend, and if they know or they don't know, then it can either work or not. However, I like the idea that Imam did, and I I've been attending your speeches before, and thanks for all the support that you provide for women. And I believe one more important thing about what Amam Venture did for the women angel investors is, of course, giving them the education they need about the finance, how to invest, all the stock market, even that people thought, why do I need to worry about that? However, it was, if you remember, there was a big number who wanted to be part of the angel investors. However, they didn't plan to have this much number. So they were like, okay, we didn't know that's going to be this attractive. And they decided to go on a different cohort after receiving this much number. And the plan was, I guess, to invest in $5,000, which is not much. And if it was in a pool, then it is a bit more safe. So what we need to do is just to encourage women to be more courageous and take this step and be an angel investor. And doing that in a pool is more safe for them, because sometimes people think, okay, what if I lost that money? But they need to know more, being educated financially and meeting other entrepreneurs, because it's in our blood. And as we saw the numbers in Jordan, we have a treasure of entrepreneurs, whether females or males. And thank you so much. You already enlightened us about more things to think about and how to get more finance, and the challenges is faced by everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And I completely agree with you, and I think this gave all of our panelists even more ideas, and even us from the WIN team more ideas for future workshops, and we will definitely be exploring that topic in further depth. With that, I will be concluding this panel, and I will thank our panelists, all of you, so much for your contributions. I learned so much, and I'm sure our audience did as well, both the audience here and the virtual audience. And I'll turn it over to my colleague, Emilia.
Thank you so much, Noor. The Secretary General and the Ambassador. Please.
Thank you.
We can share this one too if you want.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay. They send their regards. The ambassador had to attend an additional event, but we want to thank you again for everyone being here. And we're going to have a really wonderful second panel coming up, moderated by a wonderful friend of the WIN Fellowship, and just an absolute powerhouse of a woman in finance and entrepreneurship, Rim Gussus. So we're going to bring our second panel up to the stage here. We're going to transition mics. If you need to get up and stretch your legs for a second, please go ahead and do that now. And then we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with the second panel. I also realized that I was so excited to introduce the ambassador that I forgot to introduce myself. But I'm Amelia Pierce. I'm the Deputy Director for Operations and Finance for the Middle East Programs at the Atlantic Council, and I'm also the Deputy Director for the WIN Fellowship. I would be more than happy to talk to any of you about all of our work, so please come and find me after the event. Go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back with the second panel.
Maybe I'll start by introducing myself, just waiting for the panelists to sit down. Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody good with their mics?
Who is a WIN Fellow among 1, 2? Wow. Well, and when does it start? When are you flying to DC?
The roadshow is at the end of the program, so that'll be in the spring.
Okay.
But their orientation is tomorrow. Very excited. I think as people get settled again, we can start whenever you're ready, Rena.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Reem Gusous, and I am thrilled to be here. As Emilia said, I've been a friend of the Council for some time now, engaged as a mentor with the WIN Fellowship. I'm currently based in Washington, D.C., and I've really seen firsthand the quality of the support and the work they do, and I am thrilled that they've finally come to Jordan and they're going to be interacting and supporting our amazing female entrepreneurs. We have a fantastic panel today with us. We are going to be talking about the investment trends and alternative approaches, but there's going to be a main focus on female entrepreneurship. So let me just start by introducing our panelists. Start with Shireen Abbadi, who's a socio-economic consultant with the World Bank. She's a labor market research and policy development expert, focused on expanding women's economic opportunities, such as financial inclusion, home-based businesses, and addressing social norms. She worked in development consulting across MENA for many years. We have Luma Fawaz. She's one of the region's most influential leaders in early-stage business acceleration, investment, and fund management. She was named one of Forbes' top 100 power businesswomen in the region twice, not once. And under her leadership, Oasis 500 has been the most active investor and catalyst in building Jordan's startup ecosystem. She has overseen over 150 early-stage deals and worked with more than 2,500 entrepreneurs. And of course, she's a staunch supporter of female entrepreneurs. And finally, we have Sara Asad with us. She's been a regional catalyst in the tech and startup ecosystem throughout her career. She currently drives investment opportunities and community at MSA Nova, one of the only global institutional funds that systematically invests in emerging and frontier markets. And prior to this role, Sarah was the growth manager at Tamatem Games and also the entrepreneur selection and growth manager at Endeavor Jordan. I had the privilege of working with Sarah when I was running Endeavor a long time ago. I want to start with Shireen to paint us, a macro picture, because we've been talking about the challenges that female entrepreneurs face, and specifically access to finance. But there's a lot, that actually shapes this and hinders access of women to finance and, other resources that are needed to scale and grow their businesses. Shireen, can you just, take us through the journey that women entrepreneurs face, and what are really the most significant barriers from a macro perspective, from a socioeconomic, legal, cultural perspective? What are those barriers that female entrepreneurs face at different stages of their journey?
Thank you, Reem. And I will start with the barriers that people don't usually like to talk about, especially the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Jordan, because there's always a focus on what is technical and what are features of the system. Sometimes these elements are regarded as soft elements, but in fact they are very critical and very crucial to women entrepreneurship. The first one that I always like to talk about is the sense of self-efficacy, which is a key definer of entrepreneurial potential. And a few years ago, I've done a small research on that, on women entrepreneurs in Jordan, and it came up strongly in many of the interviews. But what surprised me was the amount of research that takes place in countries such as the US and in Europe about the sense of self-efficacy and its relationship to entrepreneurial potential.
Can you explain what it means, Shireen?
So this self-efficacy is the belief that you can produce a result. you want in a specific area. And there's another related term to that, and it's a bit more technical. It's called the locus of control, and it is how much control you feel you have over a situation. And there are certain questions that you usually ask to people in order to identify their level of self-efficacy. So for example, USAID have one of these extracted from the academic research, and it's used in many of their entrepreneurial and women development or women economic opportunities programs. So what I noticed is that in the US and in Europe, they are conducting research on self-efficacy and locus of control for young boys and girls in their teens at school. And because the entrepreneurial potential many times is formed at that age. And so many times we need to intervene as of that age in order for a country to increase its entrepreneurial potential in general. A research on that took place in Jordan a few years ago by one of the leading UK universities. And it compared the sense of self-efficacy and entrepreneurial potential between children who lived in the streets and children who lived in normal households. And they found out that children who live in the streets are 4 times more likely to be entrepreneurial because they don't have the financial skills, they don't know how to do math, right? If you give them a mathematical question like the ones that we assist our children for at school, they wouldn't be able to do it. But they are able to negotiate, they are able to make deals, they have a market sense, so they are 4 times more likely to be entrepreneurs than the kids who live normal lives. So this is a very critical element. And there is a research that I've seen, which is an experimental research that was implemented with the support of a German university in Africa. And they had two groups of entrepreneurs, all women. And they split them randomly to where one group took all of the technical training, such as financial management, how to develop your business plan, the business model, all of the stuff that usually are provided in by the different agents in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the other group were provided with self-development, negotiation skills, decision-making skills, all these skills that people think that they are soft. And they looked at the business revenues a few months after. And they found out that the group that had the skills training and not the financial training made more money eventually because it overcome the barrier that they had, maybe personally, but also this sense of self-efficacy is usually compounded by effects in the market and other actors in the market who don't give women equal opportunity as men. So I spoke with an entrepreneur, for example, from Irbid. She designs furniture. She produces furniture. But she never goes and buys the raw materials because she doesn't get a good price when she does it herself. While if she sends one of the guys who work for her, he gets a better price. And that's an example from Jordan. So once someone like her gets that type of training of how to negotiate such a decision, how to build that rapport and relationship, and also how to sensitize the market towards that is very important. So sense of self-efficacy is extremely critical. The second element I will talk about is social norms. And I'm always cautious when talking about social norms because everybody tends to simplify what social norms are, and it ends up being a negative label to all Arab women, right? And to all Arab communities or Muslim communities, but this is not the case. People who want to learn more about social norm need to go and read a little bit about behavioral science, how behaviors change, and how people make decisions. And social norms can be broken into bits and pieces that allows us to understand how women and men make their decisions about different aspects of their lives, and then how the ecosystem or the government policies can impact these social norms. So for example, if you want to have a look of how that looks like, there's a study by the World Bank on the behavioral aspects related to women, female labor force participation. And you would see in that many times female labor force participation is low, not because it's a personal belief of the woman, and not because the community at large is extremely conservative, but there is an overestimation of the women and their spouses of how the community, or the level of how conservative the community is. So they overestimate that, and as such they behave within that constraint. And as such, when we want to change social norms related to that, we need to understand these dimensions and be able to work on that. So these are the two topics that I usually like to talk about. But from a legal perspective, I believe when legislations treat men and women equally, it ends up being better for everyone, including women. And we have 20 years of experience with some of the global indicators, such as Women, Business, and the Law, that show this association. Women would be more likely to start a business if the law treats men and women equally. Women are more likely to be working.
Build up wealth also.
Yeah, and building wealth, and their wages are more likely to be equal.
Yeah.
I don't know if I...
No, fantastic. I guess with the second round, we can come back to you, Shireen, and ask maybe about specific policies and programs that can help, address all of those challenges. But let's switch gears a little bit and go back to the topic that we've been talking a lot about today, which is access to finance. And let me give you some very sad statistics. So this is from last year. Startup investing in the region increased by 1.7%, but actual investments, so 1.7% as a total, they increased. But for female-founded startups, it dropped by 64%. Female-founded startups raised less than 19 million last year, compared to 4 billion raised by males. So women in total raised less than 0.5% of total funding. How sad can that be? 52 out of around 600 funded startups were founded by women. The average ticket size for female-founded startups was around 360,000 compared to 8.6 million for men, the round. And 4.6 million without that. So just to give you a sense of the gap and the disparity. So with that background, Luma, why is the funding landscape like this for women? And there's definitely, there could be, some aspects related, to challenges that are inherent and that are social or whatever, but there are also probably misconceptions about female entrepreneurs within the VC space. Can you, tell us a little bit about what you've encountered from the female founders and also from the investors in the VC space?
Sure. Thank you, Reem. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming. Allow me to step back and just maybe define two things here. I want to define entrepreneurship and what is an entrepreneur, because I feel there's a wider definition and everybody has his own definition. So for us, entrepreneurship is being an innovator and a creative, but having the courage to act. So we have so many entrepreneurs that have ideas and are creators, but don't have the courage to act. So you have to have the courage to act. And this, I want to go back to Shireen's point about the social norms and not having that, mindset in terms of acting in terms of females. That's one. Two, when we talk about venture capital, venture capital talks about scalable entrepreneurs, right? Scalable businesses, business models that can scale, that don't have your typical linear model of business models. However, when she's talking about funding, she's talking about funding across the board. So we're talking about traditional business models, scalable business models, tech businesses, non-tech businesses, tech-enabled, and across the board, funding globally is only 2% that goes to women, globally, which is very sad. Just maybe to shed light on at least the Jordan landscape and how we're doing it in Jordan and what I see happening on the ground. We have an issue of female applicants. So the issue is not with the access to capital. The issue is I do not get enough females to apply. That's the issue. So if you look at the top of the funnel, we have an issue. 4 or 5 years ago, when Oasis was male-led, we only had 11% go into the top of the funnel. So imagine, 17,000 applications, only 11% female. 11%. So it's not about getting funding, it's about applying. Let's start with that. Second point is, we need more female decision makers as well. And going back to Tamer's point, with IFADA and fund manager, we need more women, Tamer. Why? Because when female, so I have a female-led IC, thank you Rama and Reem, and we are a female-led team. The 11% went up to 32% just knowing that females are in the decision-making seat. Why is that? It's because of the mindset. Females, when they know that females are on the other end, are more encouraged to apply because I'm not going to ask that question, are you going to have another baby or not? For sure, I'm not going to ask this question. So that bias is a bit avoided. But we still have an issue because we do have female fund managers and we still have lack of funding. One, females don't understand the risk that comes with that. Two is we need alternative, and I think you're going to get to that point, alternative ways of funding. I know some of the entrepreneurs here, and they don't really need investment, VC-like investment. They need project financing. They need other forms of investments that are not necessarily available to them. So, and that's an overview of how I think I would like to get into the nitty-gritty.
You mentioned the funnel, so that was actually one of the findings as part of the study that Shireen and I worked on. So the funnel, you said 11%, but then as you go down, the percentage actually,
the percentage that goes down.
Why does that happen? So they get excited, but then as you go down the funnel, the women disappear.
Actually, it's the other.
Or the decision making.
It's the other way around. It's the other way around. If you look at our current portfolio, and the women that we actually ended up investing in are outperforming the male counterparts. So the ones that actually get in and follow through are performing better. Does that make sense? But the problem is they're not applying. And if they're applying, I need to add this, they are so risk averse and their pitch is so conservative to the extent that it makes it uninvestable, if that makes sense. So when we compare it to the regular male-dominated pitch, it's not even comparable because they think, and this goes back to the social norms and the upbringing and they are conditioned to want to outperform themselves instead of like giving out numbers. That's the issue we face.
I mean, this is known about males and females. If both are applying for, let's say, a job and there are 10 requirements, women need to take 9 as a minimum out of 10 to just have the courage and apply. Men, if they take 1 or 2, that's it.
They go ahead
they
and
go
apply.
for it.
Absolutely.
And the same applies with fundraising. Women, let's say they need 3 million, they go and raise 3 million. Men, they will raise 50 million if they only raise 3 million. So they really throw themselves out there. I don't know if this is a positive thing or a negative thing, but they're definitely more risk takers.
Absolutely.
Sarah, I mean, you are a global investor, so you have a portfolio in Jordan and in MENA. Can you just give us this, your perspective from where you're sitting here, because you are actively engaged also in other, far regions like in Latin America, here in the MENA region in Jordan. How do these, regions compare when we're talking about female-founded startups?
Thank you, Reem. First of all, I think this is a great mix of a panel, because I think whatever Luma and I say and Reem in terms of metrics and numbers and the things that are happening, we always have Shireen to back it up with the behavioral analysis. So I think this is a great combo. So having invested in global companies across Latin America, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Middle East, I think there are two main themes that we really see that unite all of these markets together. First of all is that in funding towards female-led companies is at scarcity all over the world. So whether it's the US, whether it's China, or whether it's in emerging markets, I have a few metrics here, like Reem said, 52 out of almost 500 companies that raised in Middle East last year, 52 companies, which is 1%, were only female-led. In Latin America in 2020, out of the $4.4 billion that was invested into Latin America, not a single dollar went towards female-led companies that didn't have a male co-founder. When you look at Sub-Saharan Africa, that's about less than 3%. Southeast Asia is the same as well. India, for instance, I think is the second or third ranked country with the most produced startups and unicorns, yet it is one of the least companies that has female entrepreneurs. So I think this is a global theme that we've been seeing all over. However, we have been seeing some developments across these regions. So, for instance, last year, 91% of funding that went towards female-led companies in Latin America was in Brazil and Mexico. And over the years, you've seen how both Brazil and Mexico have made substantial policy reforms that have enabled these women to be able to participate, whether in the workforce or lead ventures. So whether it's by building gender-lens funds, whether it's reforming policies, they've also created specific institutions that try to build capacity for these women to be able to participate in the workforce. So this is how you see the growth in these trends there. And I think from our perspective as a VC, we have been, for the past probably 2 years that I've been at MSA, and then our previous experience at Endeavor, we've shared the same struggle where we're trying to find a pipeline to invest in female-led companies. And I think the main issue here is scarcity, to be honest. Yeah. So I was reading the study that said women are less likely to start another venture after their first, whether it's successful or not successful. And then when you look at the investment trends that are happening now, most investors, whether it's, I think this is more towards growth stage investors or more seasoned investors and global investors coming into the region, they have a lot of dry powder, but they're also very risk averse. So they've been trying to concentrate capital towards repeat founders. So when you look at the pool, these repeat founders are predominantly male. So that's just sort of a statistic that also takes you back to the behavioral analysis of this as to why women do not want to start a second or a third venture, whether they're successful or not. And the second thing that we notice is a sector struggle. So looking back at the pipeline that we used to look at in my previous experiences as well at MSA now, is that most women tend to establish businesses in the edtech and in the health tech sectors. And you have a lot of these sectors specifically mainly attract investors that are investing specifically in these sectors as well. So it's very difficult to find a large pool of investors that are investing towards health tech and edtech, just given that global comparables haven't seen multiples that are as attractive as other sectors like fintech or logistics. And I was chatting with Rama earlier as well, and she said naturally as well, women are naturally tend to establish social companies and companies that want to have a social impact. So when you look at the investability of these companies, I mean, they're not that great when you look at
From a
multiples,
VC,
right?
from a VC
From a
point of
VC
view,
perspective.
yeah.
So that takes me to the point that not all businesses need to be venture-backed, right? There are so many different investment tools that females can access, even more so than males when you look at it, given the gender focus that these alternative investment tools have. So just to wrap it up a bit, I think there is still hope. Not everything is VC, just given that I'm speaking from this standpoint. Females as well in our portfolio, we tend to see that the most effective and efficient founders in our portfolio are females. They are so efficient with the capital that they manage that they're willing to run on 50% less capital on a monthly basis than our male founders. So it just shows you how resilient they are and how capable they are in, trying to fight through economic downturns like we're going through today. So there is hope, but it's, I think, a matter of where and when and what we're looking at.
Let me just stay a little bit more with Luma and Sarah. You've mentioned the sectors. So sectors in order of largest investments in the MENA region are fintech, super app, food tech, e-commerce, logistics, mobility, prop tech now, AI, deep tech, esports. Are women present in these sectors? What's holding them back? Why is their participation in these, fast-growing sectors? Why are they not there or represented?
Reem, it's exposure. So, entrepreneurs tend to solve the problems that are around them. So mostly, in education, in kids, in health, etc. So it's about exposure. It's about, if you're not, you're not at the bank and you're not working in a bank and you're not, front-facing with clients and you feel there are people that are unbanked and you want to solve that situation, why would you? So the real pain that we see is the pain that we derive from our loved ones and the people around us. And that's why we do not see females in deep tech. We do not see any females in AI. And we're not talking about using AI, we're talking about building AI. And we don't see females in logistics, supply chain, etc., etc. And these are the VC-backed sectors that, that we've seen overwhelmingly again and again. However, again, why are we just talking about venture capital? There are other forms of capital. We need to shed the light on the other forms of capital. Loans, grants. You have, we don't, in Jordan specifically, we don't have a lot of project financing, unfortunately. And we don't have, equity funds that provide early stage. You have growth capital and you need to do 2-3 million in revenues before you can access that type of money. So I think that's really the gap. The companies that are not necessarily venture material, but there are still great businesses that need to scale.
Actually, I don't remember the exact statistic, but maybe 1% of businesses are actually, venture backable. The rest of the businesses behave as SMEs or they're social enterprises, and they definitely need, alternative funding structures.
Other than microfund, what do you have?
Well, you have other funding, more patient structures,
yeah.
but you need, you need the support of the donor community, governments, philanthropists. This is huge in the US, for example. In Europe, unfortunately, in this part of the world, it hasn't picked up.
Reem, can we go back to something that, something was mentioned, specifically Shireen mentioned behavioral analysis on that segment at least. One of the things that's missing is resourcefulness. Unfortunately, and I myself included, we are not as resourceful as men. We are not transactional as men. We do not pick up the phone with people that we don't know and introduce ourselves and make a deal. So, that's part of the behavioral that keeps us from unlocking that type of capital because we do not know that it exists.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Yeah, yeah. Shireen, what can donors or the government do to support in terms of, programs, policies, the legal framework? How can we address this from a big picture perspective?
First and foremost, I think I will group the items first on the pipeline, because I think it's the pain for everybody who's in this area of work. And I believe that the governments should be supporting the ecosystem with policies and with data as well. So for example, I'll give you a very, very important example. So in Jordan, we have an enterprise census that took place in 2018, and the methodology does not capture informal businesses or home-based businesses. So it does not tell us entities who are trying to support entrepreneurs, what is the pipeline that we're looking at? What is the larger population? How does it look like? Which sectors are these businesses in which areas? What is the size of their businesses, right? The most recent data that captured small and micro enterprises in Jordan was in 2015 by a USAID funded project, and it's sad that Her Excellency, the ambassador, is not here. But such a survey has to take place again. We want to understand where are all these micro and small women-owned businesses are, what sectors they are in, and how can we reach to them. So back then they found out that women-owned businesses are 11 times more likely to be home-based, micro and small I'm talking, 11 times more likely to be home-based, 9.4 times more likely to hire other women, less likely to operate all year round, so they tend to be seasonal, less likely to use a vehicle for business, and less likely to be registered. So they gave us some characteristics to work with on the policy element, and that's when the home-based business initiative came up, like licensing home-based businesses in professional services, in technology, in addition to in cooking and handicrafts, the artisan element of businesses. And we saw, I'm still hoping that one day I'll be able to do that analysis, just find out how many home-based businesses graduated into commercial, regular businesses, because it is an incubator, right? And it should be part of the pipeline, but because the data is not available. So we don't have the overall population data on enterprises and small businesses that exist in Jordan. And then on the home-based businesses, we have around 4,000 of them. We don't have a single database that can tell us where they are and what they do and so on. These could be potential pipeline for the ecosystem. The second thing is the training. When we're talking about entrepreneurial training, all of the elements that goes into it, either the ones that are related to the sense of self-efficacy, the locus of control, the negotiation skills, the decision-making, and the technical ones. These need to be part of the skill development programs that take place. It's not enough that I teach a woman how to develop an AI product or how to provide cybersecurity services or how to do data analysis. It is very important as well for those people whom we are skilling from universities right now, or upskilling or reskilling, to also introduce some of these critical elements, to take initiative, to feel resourceful, to analyze that decision. So what is the worst thing that could happen if I make a cold call to someone, right? So when they start learning how to break down these types of decisions and answering the question, what is the worst thing that could happen? It's not something, I've learned it later in my own life, right? And it helped me make a lot of critical decisions. But no one taught me that at school, right? So it has to be part of all of the skilling, reskilling, and technical training programs. Second, very important element, I think, is we need to guide women into business, not necessarily guide them in terms of holding their hands and taking them somewhere, but There are sectors that are now growing because they have the potential of selling to the globe and not selling locally. And all of the exportable services are critical, right? We're talking about professional services, engineering services, all of the IT spectrum can now be provided to a firm in the US or in Europe using B2B contracts, right? And these are jobs that can be done remotely over the cloud. You don't even need to have a data center in your so the barriers to entry, the critical barriers to entry is now broken down. It's not, they're not there anymore. What is left is the B2B relationship. So I think there has to be some entrepreneurial programs that target a sector like this, in addition to the artisans, because I still believe that artisans in our part of the world can be integrated into global value chains, such as garments, for example, not the quick fashion, but rather the mid-level designer global chains where Jordanian women could be doing the crochet work, right, for high-end bags or mid-level bags and so on and so forth. And finally, I always like to go back to the commercial lending. In Jordan, commercial lending products are limited, the banks are conservative, but the governments have put policies in guaranteeing the loans to commercial loans to women-owned businesses at a rate that is higher than men. Right? And it is an advantage that many entrepreneurs, especially women, don't know about. But at the same time, there is this social norm that plays a critical role in applying for a loan in Jordan by women. So they always say, if I don't pay back, I go to prison. Right? And that is a significant barrier, you know. Yeah. So this legal aspect associated with a commercial loan has to also be addressed at a larger scale to encourage more young men and women to apply for and take commercial loans without fearing of going to prison because of business mistakes, not personal.
I think we can go on forever. But sorry, do we have time? We don't have time. We need to wrap up, right? Maybe just one last comment from, closing notes.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, just a point on Shireen's point in terms of how females always feel that fear. Like, if I don't pay back, I go to prison. And this is, I think, something that we see in our VC space a lot. So typically, I saw this group of studies that sampled a bunch of female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs. As well as VCs and venture capitalists. And when female entrepreneurs were always pitching, like Luma said, they were always very conservative with their pitch decks and projections. But also the investors, the way that they were asking questions towards women is that they always tend to ask them they always tend to ask them about their risks. Okay, so how much runway do you have left to survive? What do you plan to do with your employees if the company fails? Whereas when they're asking their male counterpart, it's always an opportunistic approach.
It's
more of how are you going to grow your company? What's your exit plan? So I think that part of the risk.
This is the investor bias, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yes. Do we have time for questions? No, yeah. Maybe we can take a couple of questions.
Let's take one. Yeah.
Hi, and thank you very much for this very informative evening. My name is Zine Dejani. I'm a co-founder of Fasolia, which is a family entertainment app in Arabic. So my question is, شوي هيك it was close in our face in today's session with VCs and them not being interested in certain sectors. So what are our options? That's my question. So you gave us a couple, but loans, we prefer not. So what are our options?
Wow, tough. I mean, and then you and I talked about this before, that one of the issues is we are trying to work with the government on some other options other than angels. You have the angels as options for sure, because typically some of the angels would want to invest in it, in this. Individual investors. We do not have any other funds that invest at this stage, unfortunately. So if you're looking at institutional investors, there are no institutional investors that cover Jordan. However, globally, there are investors that want to invest in something like that. But we're talking about investors, non-VC investors, traditional investors that want to invest in education, etc. There are 2 or 3 funds in the region that like educational technology. Right, and I know you're in that space. So only 2 or 3 investors that would want to do education technology. But your best bet, go to individual investors and angel groups. That's your best bet. I'm sorry, I would love to give you more options, but there are none.
Noor, I hope that you partially cover alternative funding structures as well as part of their training in DC. I mean, they need to be exposed to this because there are so many structures that are available out there, and it would be wonderful to expose the entrepreneurs to those funding structures. But one thing about loans is that there's one positive aspect of that. You will focus on building a business with cash flow, so that you repay the loan on time. So, the upside of dealing with a bank is that there's that payment at the end of the month, and you'll be focusing on building, a profitable business. So it should not be dismissed as a funding option throughout the life cycle.
Actually, many of the female business owners that I interviewed who used commercial lending were extremely successful. And the first step was extremely hard. But then after that, with all of the guarantees that are provided in Jordan, they ended up having a sweet deal when it comes to the loan itself. And at the same time, once they had the business plan and the business model very well established, they felt comfortable paying the loan. So commercial lending is still in Jordan an option that is less explored by entrepreneurs.
We're not finishing, sorry.
Sorry. We've just recently invested in a company that might lend you. It's called Capifly, check it out. It lends tech businesses, specifically tech businesses, that have either subscribers or has B2B, because she's a female entrepreneur that does fintech, and what she's doing is she is very close to your problem, and she understands the problem why tech businesses are not able to get lending the proper way.
So we have a networking segment now, and I guess you can direct the questions to the amazing panelists here. Continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reem. No, please. Thank you. But that is what I was going to note, is that we have a networking session right after this, right outside, so you'll have plenty of access to our speakers. Thank you so much to everyone who attended, all of our speakers, our moderators. I know we talked a lot about challenges today, but we also talked a lot about opportunities. And I know that I am leaving here feeling really energized and really inspired. The only note I want to leave you with is that the WIN Fellowship is a big tent, and we welcome every single one of you who attended here today to get involved, to reach out to us, to talk to us about what we're doing, because we want to hear from you and we want to work with you. So thanks for coming. Have a great rest of your evening.